Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 22 of our reading of the Harvard Classics. And the Harvard Classics are composed of the Apology, Phaedo, and Credo of Plato, translated by Benjamin Jowett, the Golden Sayings of Epictetus, translated by Hastings Crossley, the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, translated by George Long, edited by Charles W. Eliot, LLD, with introductions and notes. And we're going to go over the copyright information, which is right here. Copyright 1980, 1937, and 1907 by Grolier Enterprises Corporation, manufactured in the United States. Now, in the last episode, we finished off the Golden Sayings of Epictetus. And now we are to Appendix A, which is the fragments attributed to Epictetus. And we are going to read these. Let me just change my position really quick, and then we will get right to this. Okay, here we go. Number 1. A life entangled with fortune is like a torrent. It is turbulent and muddy, hard to pass and masterful of mood, noisy and of brief countenance. Number 2. The soul that companies with virtue is like an ever-flowing source. It is pure, clear, and wholesome draught, sweet, rich, and generous of its store, that injures not, neither destroys. Number 3. It is a shame that one who sweetens his drink with the gift of the bee should embitter God's gift, reason, with vice. Number 4. Crows pick out the eyes of the dead when the dead have no longer need of them. But flatterers mar the soul of the living, and her eyes they blind. Number 5. Keep neither a blunt knife nor an ill-disciplined looseness of tongue. Number 6. Nature hath given men one tongue, but 2 ears, that we may hear from others twice as much as we speak. That's brilliant, by the way. Number 7. Do not give sentence to another tribunal till you have been yourself judged in the tribunal of justice. Okay, next we have number 8. It is shameful to be a judge it's shameful for a judge to be judged by others. Okay. Number 9. Give me by all means the shorter and nobler life instead of one that is longer but of less account. Number 10. Freedom is the name of virtue, slavery of vice. None is a slave whose acts are free. Number 11. Of pleasures, those which occur more rarely give the most delight. Number 12. Exceed due measure, and the most delightful things become the least delightful. Number 13. The anger of an ape, the threat of a flatterer, these deserve equal regard. Number 14. Chastise thy passions, that they avenge not themselves upon thee. Number 15. No man is free who is not a master of himself. Number 16. A ship should not ride on a single anchor, nor life on a single hope. Number 17. Fortify thyself with contentment, that is an impregnable stronghold. Number 18. No man who is a lover of money, of pleasure, of glory, is likewise a lover of men, but only he that is a lover of whatsoever things are fair and good. Number 19. Think of God more often than thou breathest. Number 20. Choose the life that is noblest, for custom can make it sweet to thee. Number 21. Let thy speech of God be renewed day by day, aye, rather than thy meat and drink. Number 22. Even as the sun doth not wait for prayers, the incantations to rise, but shine forth, and is welcomed by all. So thou also wait not for clapping of hands and shouts of praise to do thy duty. Nay, do good of thine own accord, and thou wilt be loved like the sun. Number 23. Let no man think that he is loved by any who loveth none. Number 24. If thou rememberest that God standeth by to behold and visit all that thou dost, whether in the body or in the soul, thou surely wilt not err in any prayer or deed, and thou shalt have God to dwell with thee. Okay, now there's a note down here. Let me read that. It's kind of in small print. Note, Schweinhauser's great edition collects 181 fragments attributed to Epictetus, of which but a few are certainly genuine. Some, as 21, 24 above, bear the stamp of Pythagorean origin. Others, though changed in form, may well be based upon Epictetus' sayings. Most have been preserved in the anthology of John of Stobarus, a Byzantine collector, of whom scarcely anything is known, but this he probably wrote towards the end of the 5th century, and made his vast body of extracts from more than 500 authors for his son's use. The best examination of the authenticity of the fragments is Questions Epictetus by R. Asmus, 1888. The above selection includes some of doubtful origin, but intrinsic interest. Crossley. Okay. Appendix B, the hymn of Cleanthus. Chiefest glory of deathless God, almighty forever, sovereign of nature, and rulest by law. What name shall we give thee? Blessed be thou, for on thee should call all things that are mortal, for that we are thine offspring, nay, all that in myriad motion lives for its day on the earth bears one impress, thy likeness upon it. Wherefore my song is of thee, and I hymn the power forever. Lo, the vast orb of the worlds round the earth evermore as it rolleth. Feel thee its ruler and guide, and owns the lordship rejoicing. I, for this conquering hand, have a servant of living fire. Sharp is the bolt, where it falls, nature shrinks at the shock and doth shudder. Thus thou directeth the world universal, and that pulses through all things, mingling its life with lights that are great and lights that are lesser, e'en as beseemeth its birth, high king through ages unending. Not it done that is done without thee in the earth, or the waters, or in the height of heavens, save the deed of the fool and the sinner. Thou canst make rough things smooth, and thy voice low jarring disorder. Moveth to music, and love is born where hatred abounded. Thus hast thou fitted alike things good and things evil together, and over all might reign one reason, supreme and eternal. Though thereunto the hearts of the wicked and hardened and heedless. Woe unto them, for while ever their hands are grasping at good things, blind are their eyes, yea, stopping as their ears to God's law universal, calling through wise obedience to live the life that is noble. This they mark not, but heedless of right, turn each to their own way. Here a heart fired with ambition, in strife and straining unhallowed, there thrusting honor aside, fast set upon getting and gaining, others again given over to lusts and dissolution and dissolute softness, working never God's law, but that what warreth upon it. Nay, but O giver of all things good, whose home is the dark cloud, thou that wieldeth heaven's bolt, save men from their ignorance grievous. Scatter the night from their souls, and grant them to come to that wisdom wherewithal, sistered with justice, thou rulest and governest all things, that we honored by thee may require thee with worship and honor, evermore praising thy works as in meet for men that shall perish, seeing that none, be he mortal or God, hath privilege nobler than without stint, without stay, to extol thy law universal. Okay. The index for reference. We're not going to actually go over that, I don't believe, but it's kind of interesting. So anyways, we are going to go to the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, translated by George Long, M.A. Introductory note. Marcus Aurelius Verus was born in Rome AD 121 and assumed the name of Marcus Aurelius Antonius, by which he is known to history. On his adoption by the Emperor Aurelius Antoninus, he succeeded to the imperial throne in 161 and ruled till his death in 180. His reign, though marked by justice and moderation at home, was troubled by constant warfare on the frontiers of the empire, and Aurelius spent much of his later years in the uncongenial task of commanding armies that no longer proved irresistible against the barbarian hordes. Aurelius was educated by the orator Fronto, but turned aside from rhetoric to the study of Stoic philosophy, of which he was the last distinguished representative. The Meditations, quote unquote, which he wrote in Greek, are among the most noteworthy expressions of this system, and exhibit it favorably on its practical side. His own precepts he carried out with singular consistency, and both in his public and his private life, he was in the highest degree conscientious. He and his predecessor are noted as the only Roman emperors who can be said to have ruled with a single eye to the welfare of their subjects. During his reign, Rome was visited by a severe pestilence, and this with reverses suffered by his armies threw the populace into a panic and led them to demand the sacrifice of the Christians, whom they regarded as having brought down the anger of the gods. Aurelius seemed to have shared the panic, and his record is stained by his sanctioning of a cruel persecution. This incident in the career of the last and one of the loftiest of the pagan moralists may be regarded as symbolic of the dying effort of heathenism to check the advancing tide of Christianity. The Meditations, quote unquote, picture with faithfulness the mind and character of the noblest of the emperors. Simple in style and sincere in tone, they record for all time the height reached by pagan aspiration in the effort to solve the problem of conduct, and the essential agreement of his practice with his teaching proved that, quote unquote, even in a palace life may be led well. Let's start the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius Antonius. From my grandfather Verus, I learned good morals and the... Oh, this is number 1. From my grandfather Verus, I learned good morals and the government of my temper. 2. From the reputation and remembrance of my father, modesty and a manly character. 3. From my mother, piety and beneficence and abstinence, not only from evil deeds, but even from evil thoughts, and further, simplicity in my way of living, far removed from the habits of the rich. Number 4, from my great-grandfather rather, not to have frequented public schools, and to have had good teachers at home, and to know that on such things a man should spend liberally. Number 5, from my governor, to be neither of the green nor of the blue party at the games in the circus, nor a partisan either of the Pomularius or the Scutarius at the gladiators' fight. From him, too, I learned endurance and labor, and to want little, and to work with my own hands, and not to meddle with other people's affairs, and not to be ready to listen to slander. Number 6, from Diognetus, not to busy myself about trifling things, and not to give credit to what was said by miracle workers and jugglers about incantations and the driving away of demons and such things, and to not breed quails for fighting, nor to give myself up passionately to such things, and to endure freedom of speech, and to have become intimate with philosophy, and to have been a hearer first of Bacchius, then of Candaces and Marcianus, and to have written dialogues in my youth, and to have desired a plank bed and skin and whatever else of the kind belongs to the Grecian discipline. Number 7, from Rusticus I, the first, received the impression that my character required improvement and discipline, and from him I learned not to be led astray to sophistic emulation, not to write on speculative matters, nor to delivering little hortatory orations, nor to showing myself off as a man who practices much discipline or does benevolent acts in order to make a display, and to abstain from rhetoric and poetry and fine writing, and not to walk about in the house in my outdoor dress, nor to do other things of the kind, and to write my letters with simplicity, like the letters which Rusticus wrote from Cynicia to my mother, and with respect to those who have offended me by words or done me wrong, to be easily disposed disposed to be pacified and reconciled as soon as they have shown a readiness to be reconciled, and to read carefully and not to be satisfied with the superficial understanding of a book, nor hastily to give my assent to those who talk overmuch. And I am indebted to him for being acquainted with the discourses of Epictetus, which he communicated to me out of his own collection. Number 8. From Apollonius, I learned freedom of will and undeviating steadiness of purpose, and to look at nothing else, nor even for a moment, except to reason, and to be always the same in sharp pains on the occasion of the loss of a child, and in long illness, and to see clearly in a living example that the same man can be both more resolute and yielding, and not peevish in giving his instruction, and to have had before my eyes a man who clearly considered his experiences and his skill in expounding philosophical principles as the smallest of his merits. And from him I learned how to receive from friends what are esteemed favors without being either humbled by them or letting them pass unnoticed. Number 9. From Sextus, a benevolent disposition and an example of a family governed by in a fatherly manner, and the idea of living conformably to nature and gravity without affection, and to look carefully after the interest of friends, and to tolerate ignorant persons and those who form opinions without consideration. He had the power of readily accommodating himself to all, so that communication with him was more agreeable than any flattery. And at the same time he was more highly venerated by those who associated with him, and he had a faculty both of discovering and ordering in an intelligent and methodical way the principles necessary for life. And he never showed anger or any other passion, but was entirely free from passion, and also most affectionate. And he could express approbation without noisy display, and he possessed much knowledge without ostentation. 10. From Alexander the grammarian, to refrain from fault finding, and not in a reproachful way to chide those who uttered any barbarous or solecistic or strange sounding expression, but dexterously to introduce the very expression which ought to have been used, and in the way of answer or giving confirmation, or joining in an inquiry about the thing itself, not about the word, or by some other fit suggestion. Number 11. From Fronto, I learned to observe what envy and duplicity and hypocrisy are in a tyrant, and that generally those among us who are called patricians are rather deficient in paternal affection. Number 12, from Alexander the Platonic, not frequently nor without necessity, to say to anyone or to write in a letter that I have no leisure, nor continually to excuse the neglect of duties required by our relation, to those with whom we live, by alleging urgent occupations. Number 13, from Catullus, not to be indifferent when friend finding fault, even if he should find fault without reason, but to try to restore him to his usual disposition, and to be ready to speak well of teachers, as it is reported of Domitius and Athenodoctus, and to love my children truly. Just to be safe, we should probably end it here. We have this long one to go, number 14. So we will pick that up when we get back. We have been reading from the Harvard Classics, and if you specifically the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. If you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe, ring the bell so you know when I upload. Also, want to support me in any way, if you want to join the Discord server, all the information will be in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.